Good morning to everyone who has attended today's webinar in association with Esko for the third and final part. Today we will be looking at print workflow and how 3D adds value to your business and can make your customers fall in love with you. Sadly, Russell Weller was not able to join us today for our final part in our series, but it is my great pleasure to introduce Hilde van Wild, who has had more than 30 years experience in the graphic industry for packaging and commercial printing. She has also become a specialist in graphic workflows over the last 5 years, which have mainly made her be involved in the sign and display market. Working in the marketing department at Esko as a software application specialist. A few quick housekeeping rules just for our attendees today. You will all be on mute unless you have a question, which you are more than welcome to post into the chat section or to raise your hand, which you would see in the GoToWebinar control panel. If you would all also be so kind as to take part in our very short poll, we would be very thankful for such help, honestly. Right, thank you very much. I will be handing it over to Hilde now to run you through our final presentation. Hilde, the controls are yours. Hang on, I think we're having trouble hearing you again, Hilde. One moment. Hello, Hilde?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. I shall now be handing it over straight to you. There you are.
Okay, welcome to this FESPA webinar that is presented by Esko. My name is Hilde van Eetvelde. I'm working at the headquarters in our company at Esko in Belgium. Today we will go through our third part of the webinar, and we are going to present how 3D can be added value into your workflow. In this session, I will cover how we can design 3D based with two applications which we call Artios CAD and Studio Design. Yeah. So first of all, we will designing a multi-port display by making use of Artios CAD. What are we going to show there? How to run a standard. Then next to it, multi-port designing, how we can bring all parts together to a 3D multi-port display. And then also another thing is the cleaning exported graphic elements, which means that from the structural design, we can import it into Illustrator, put design on it, and make use of existing design to export it back to the structural design. Then next to it, I will show you in Adobe Illustrator with an Esko plugin, which we call Studio Design. And there we will show how easy it becomes designing artwork based on structural data and how you can directly visualize it into 3D. Next to it, usage of 3D guides to make designing more easier. Then we will, I will explain you how we can load also some scenes. And at the end, I will show you how we can export to a 3D PDF or a Collada file. Okay, now let me close this one, and I will show you what we are going to design. So here you see a 3D exported out of Illustrator. It's a 3D PDF which you can open in Adobe Reader. And this is what we are going to make. So you can see that this is a multi-port display. Yeah. So we have a base, we have some trays on it, and we have a back header panel. Yeah. So this is what we are going to produce, and I will guide you now through some very powerful functions within Artios CAD. So I will close this one, and first of all, we will go to Artios CAD. Excuse me for this, but I'm going to close my email, and now we are in ArtiosCAD. ArtiosCAD being a software where you can do a creation of a structural design, but if you have the software, we have already a lot of standards within this software. Just to give you an idea, these are all standards where you can adapt new values and everything will fit into one another. So for this display, I'm going to start to make the base, and I'm going to, of course, add some board information. In this case, we are going to work with a not folding, corrugated EB flute 4.5 millimeters thick. Yeah. Here I can change my parameters. Yeah. And if I agree on it, I have my structural design. In ArtiosCAD, by clicking on Convert to 3D, I will have the possibility to directly visualize my display in 3D modes. Just accepting it, and we have it here. Okay, for this one, I can still spin it around and check out if everything is fitting nicely into one another. In this case, I'm going to turn it around in this way, yeah. And what we will do now is I'm going to add the background panel as well. So therefore, I will simply open up an existing ARD file, but of course it could be again a standard which I will adapt onto this base. So in this case, I'm going to start with the background panel. So this is my background or my back panel, and I will add it onto the 3D file, which will look like this. Now we have some powerful functionalities where I can say, for example, snap tap to slot. This is a tap, and I want this tap to be nicely fall into this slot. Yeah. In this case, probably I will have to turn it around a bit because I have to be able to select the slot. So again, I will go to the function tap into this slot. Try it again. Maybe I have to zoom in more. Now you can see it's automatically snapping into the slots, but in this case I have to still turn it around. Now if we have a look to the to what we have just been producing, you will see that indeed I have my base for my display and I have my back panel. Okay, so now I will start with this one. I'm just closing down these files because of course I'm not going to make everything live because otherwise it would take hours. But anyway, within Illustrator now I can say, okay, I'm going to open up my file, which is in this case, it's already a graphic, just to show you how we bring everything together now. So I'm going to start off with a design I already have made. Yeah, so I already had some measurements and I'm going to load this on screen. Now the back header, I'm going to load it. So it will be a structural design which I will place in Illustrator. So in this case, I'm going to go to my CAD information and I'm going to place my green header. Once I have structural design within Illustrator, I can open up my studio window. And this studio window here, studio design window, is a plugin of Esko on top of Studio. Now you can see that indeed I have this background panel, but I can see that some elements of my graphic design needs to be added onto my structural design. Okay, now how do we do this? I have prepared it a little bit, but just by selecting these line works, and now I can say, okay, I'm going to export the selected object back to the Artios CAD file. Okay, and it will look like this then, and I'm going to save it, and in this case I will save it under FESPA webinar. Okay, I save it. And now what I will do is I will go back to ArtiosCAD and I'm going to open up this structural design. Okay. The only thing I need to do now is simply to clear and to clean out all the extra lines. Okay, and then for that one, let me put on some information here. So this is a direct palette that I can use. And with a function trim interior, I'm going to clear out the line work. Okay, so how do I do this? All the lines which I have to clear out, I will cut them away, just like this. Yeah, so this of course I need to do for the whole shape. Okay, also here I will clear out those lines which are no longer needed. Okay, just a small thing here, and then of course by selecting some of these lines by rectangle, I can already delete them, also this one and also this one. Now my shape, my new, how would I say, my new line work or my structural design is ready. Again, I could convert it, for example, to 3D, and now you can see the result here. Yeah. So the only thing that I still need to do is update my graphics file and add the final structural design. Now, just for you to have an idea, yeah, I will go back to Illustrator now. I'm going to close down, or I can simply now, just to show you, place the new structural design. Yeah, just like this. Okay, and now you will see when I visualize it, you will see that it's not really into position yet. Yeah, I have my shape all right, but the graphics is not yet into position. So again, with the plugin on top of Illustrator, I can move structural design very easily. So I can pick up the structural design and bring it into position. Of course, I can zoom in to make sure that if I place it, that I place it in the right position. Okay. Now, simply by updating the Studio Design window, you can see the results. Yeah. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make the complete composition of the display within ArtiosCAD. Yeah. So we are going to move back to ArtiosCAD now, and I'm going to show you some other functionality. So these files are already done. I can close them. Okay, and now we will go to the next part where I'm going to open already a part of the multi-part display. So in this case, I'm going to load straight away an already 3D file, yeah, and you can see that I have my base of my display, I have my back panel, but these trays still need to be fitted onto this one. And also with very nice functions, I can simply click on the base and it will fit onto it. Again, the same thing here, click onto it and it will be positioned into the right spot. Okay. We are just waiting a little bit, and also the last tray will be positioned onto the display. Okay, so once this is finished, my complete display has been assembled. So now I have a composition of all my different pieces into, in this case, a blanco, so it's a white display. Okay, and now I will turn back to Illustrator and we will bring all the graphics on top of it. So in this case, I'm going to open up all my artwork. Of course, if the artwork doesn't exist yet, I can start off from the structural design and then put all the graphics on top of it. Now, just to show you, I'm opening up So the 5 different parts of my multi-port display. Okay, so files are being opened, and very soon I will be able to show you the result. So first of all, let us go to the base. So now I have my graphics, I can see my structural design, and I can also visualize this into the studio design window. Yeah. So just imagine you need to reposition a certain element, no problem. I can zoom in, for example, in my studio design window at a certain point, yeah. And for example, I could now say, okay, let me select those parts, and I could, for example, move them around. So you will see as soon as one moment, I also have to pick these ones. As soon as I reposition it and I update my window, I can see where I have put it. Okay, so I will undo this one just for the demo now, update my window, and we will have a look onto the other pieces. So this is a part of the base. So this is part of where we put the trays on. Then we have the other part being the header, yeah. Then we have the tray. So the tray will look like this. So you can check every separate element, yeah. And at the end, I can also load now the complete composition, which we call a scene. So in this case, I will say load scene, and I'm going to load up the complete display, yeah, the green display composed, and this will be a collada file. Now you will see that even within Illustrator, I will be able to visualize my complete display, yeah. So very nice. Now just imagine that I need to do a correction onto this tray, for example. By double clicking the tray, the right file will be opened. And also when, for example, I want to zoom in at a certain spot, also the system will zoom in directly onto that spot, just like this. Okay, now just imagine that you need to reposition something. For example, this reduced footprint should be in line with the eco-friendly production, yeah. Therefore, I can set up, for example, onto the base, I'm going to put some 3D guides, yeah. So for example, I can draw a guideline like this, and also in the other direction like this. And of course, I need a guideline. Let me go to this part, yeah. I could zoom in here, system will zoom in, and also here I could say I'm going to add a 3D guide just in front of the text. Now, as you can see, those 3D guides are running all over the 3 parts. So just imagine that I have to bring this reduced footprint into the right position. You will see that the system is zooming in, yeah. I can very easily select all these elements, okay, and then, for example, zoom out a little bit so I can see my guideline. And in this case, I will pick this element and I will move it onto this guide. If I do an update now of my studio design window, you can see that everything is nicely lined now. Okay, so you can already imagine if, for example, you have to position certain things on a certain spot, you can do this. So just imagine that I copy this element and I go to this position. Okay, what I could do is I could paste the elements, okay, into this one. Yeah, it's not rightly, okay. One moment, let me undo this one, and let me go back to this one. I think that some of my layers might be locked, yeah. So if I do the same thing, I will copy it and then go to this spot or to this part, yeah, which is another file, And here the same thing. If I want to drop it into a layer, for example, I could switch on a certain layer and paste it inside. Okay, and then the only thing I still need to do is to move it into position. Okay, just like this. And of course, probably I lost my coloring. I have to admit that Illustrator is not my the main package that I know. So just I'm going to enter just some color inside. Okay, just like this. And yeah, whatever. Anyway, I should color it up and so on and so on. So, in other words, yeah, so in ArcGIS we are creating structural design. Yeah, we can export everything into an A3D file, which we call a scene. Yeah, and this scene can be loaded into Illustrator via, of course, the Studio Design window. Again, if you want to navigate yourself through all these different parts of the file, just by simply double clicking the elements, you can very easily go and switch to all these different parts. Now what is very nice here is that I can export this file now. Okay, very soon I will receive my window. So now I can export this file here into a PDF with 3D. So a 3D PDF which can be opened directly in Adobe Reader. And I could also export it to a Collada file. Now the result of this file can be opened in Acrobat Reader and will look like this. Now these files are not really big, so you could exchange, excuse me, you could exchange these files over email, for example. So your customer can have already a very good overview of his file, how his end product will look like. Yeah. Now I have shown you how you can work with structural design and adding graphics on top of it. Yeah. But of course, it can do more than just that. Let me just close these files here now, and I'm just going to show you another example where you can use or where you can make use of the 3D designing. As I'm closing the files, you can see that my scene is still there, but of course the graphics are closed. Okay, so we will just close all these files. Of course, I could simply close Illustrator and start it up again. Now I'm going to remove also this scene, remove all. Okay, and now we will do something else. Okay, now just to give you an idea of ArcGIS, let me close this one. Talking about running standards is not only for displays, but also we have a lot of standard boxes within ArcGIS. For example, we have all the ArcGIS folding cordon, ECMA standards, and so on. So let me just pick an example here. So you can see you have different types of boxes. Yeah. And let me just pick one. Okay. Now, because this is a standard, I can very easily change the size of it. So now I can say, because this is a standard, so everything has been built up by formulas. So now I can very easily say, okay, I need a box. What is the length of my front panel? For example, 150 millimeters. Then also the width, for example, is 75. Then I could say the height of the box is, for example, 200. And then you have some other specifications. Now I could go through it and change also my flaps, the dust flap, duck flap, and so on. And when I agree on everything, I say, okay. And now I have my box. Already within ArcGIS, I could say, okay, just fold it and let me see how this box looks like, yeah. And even, for example, when it's not completely closed, I could still select all the folding angles, for example, this one, and this one, yeah. And I could do it manual, yeah, to close the box, or I could directly say that close it with over an angle of 90 degrees and close the box. What we will do now is I'm going to save this structural design. Okay, and let me put it in this one. Let me call it HVE FESPA, for example, and I will save it. Now we will go back to Illustrator, and in Illustrator I can say, okay, I'm going to open up now this 3D file. I think I have put it here, HVE FESPA, so it's from 325, and I open it up. And now I have my box, so I only have now my structural design. Okay, let me zoom it out a little bit. Okay, and bring it into position. All right, and now I can say, okay, let me put some artwork on it. So for example, or let me first of all open my studio design window, yeah, where you can see now that I have my complete box. And now I can say, okay, let me add some color. So for example, I'm going to add a background color, which in this case is maybe a bit of cyan. I update my window and I have my box. And like this, I'm going to start doing my creation onto the box. Okay, so I'm going to draw a star, for example, and add it into a green color, update, and I will be able to visualize it straight away. Okay, just for the time being, yeah, like this. So you can see that very, very fast you can have a visualization on how it will look on your folded box. Now just imagine that, for example, I'm placing a star on the edge of the box here, and let me put it in red, for example. And if we have a look, I will have it here. Now you can see that this star has been positioned on the top flap here, yeah, but I would like the star to run through or run over the other panel, yeah. Now what can I do here is with Studio Toolkit for boxes, I'm selecting my panel, I'm selecting my piece of artwork, yeah, and with the function distribute selection, very easily I can make a copy of the element, and you will see within the file the system will calculate the angle and it will copy automatically the star. Now just imagine that I would like to make this a bit smaller, yeah. I reposition it and maybe I enter another color onto it, maybe the yellow, for example. Now this star of course should follow. Now I can say, okay, update the copies that I have taken, and all in one click everything has been settled. So like this you can see that it's very clever and very nice to work with, because as soon as you're busy with the 2D, yeah, we are already looking at 2D for years, but it's very, very nice if you have a visualization directly into 3D. And again, if you want to show your customer the end result, no problem. At any time you can say, okay, export, for example, to a 3D file in a certain resolution, and now I can say, okay, let me just give it a name. It will be exported, and now very easily I can go to the location where I have put the design. Did I put it here? Yes. And with a double click I can open it up in Acrobat Reader, and there you go. So on this one you can ship via email or over the network, over the web, for example. You can very easily ship it to your customer and he can directly have a visual of what has been produced. Of course, it can do much more than just that. Just imagine that you have one of the stars that you want to make a cutout in the box. Yeah. Also, this one you can do. So, for example, I could say, okay, let me export this one back to my structural design. Yeah. And then I have a cutting line. Okay. And then I save it again, save, and the system will replace the new one. And now you can see that you have a look through again by making use of the graphics within your within Illustrator. Yeah. So this brings me more or less to the end of this session. And my question now to you is, do you have any questions? So Courage, I'm giving the word to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. Actually, I had a question myself, Hildy. From what I understand, Esko is now working on having many new, different, and very innovative plugins that can work with all the Adobe software. Can
Yes.
you present some of these to us?
Yes, because well, for this time we were only talking about creation of structural design and then creating the graphics, putting everything together. But from Esko's point of view, we have added a lot of plugins on top of Illustrator, yeah, where you can do like or where we are upgrading Illustrator as being more a production system, yeah, not only creating but also production system. And for example, what do we have here? We have the Studio Designer, yeah, which you have seen now, but we also have, for example, Studio Toolkit for boxes, Studio Toolkit for labels, and shrink sleeves. But of course, this is bringing us to the packaging industry, where we have tools to do pre-distortions before, for example, a shrink sleeve will go through the heating tunnel and so on. So indeed, we are putting a lot of effort for creating plugins on top of Illustrator, which is upgrading your Illustrator more into a production system. Just to give you an example, yeah, just imagine you're busy in production, yeah, and you receive an Illustrator file, but you don't have any idea how many inks that are used. Therefore, we have, for example, Ink Manager. Here, we can directly see how many separations we have, what is the ruling of my screens, what are my screen angles, and so on. If I want to do, for example, an ink mix, which is not so easy to do in Illustrator, I could say, for example, I want to ink mix, yeah, but of course I will have to add, in this case first, some Pantone inks, yeah. So for example, let me just have a look at this dimension. So okay, let me open up my swatch library, ink books, and just imagine you want to work with a metal coated ink, for example. Yeah. So what I can very easily do is ink mix here, for example. So I could say, okay, I want to ink mix, yeah, my 100% metal ink or my Pantone ink with, for example, a certain percentage of cyan. Yeah. So ink mix is one of the plugins that we also have within Illustrator. Of course, we also have the viewer. Just imagine that indeed you have a file, yeah, but you don't have any clue how it looks like separation-wise, yeah. So for example, let me just go to total view in this case. So what I can do is I can generate, I'm just going to make sure that at least I see my box. So what I can do here in the viewer is, for example, I can check my separations. So I can switch off all the separations and check out how my separations are looking like. Yeah. Also some other things. Just imagine that you're working for a certain printing process. I could even view how this file will look like if I print it in Flexo, for example. Yeah. So I can specify some press settings and then see how the result will be. And just have a look at the colors. You can also see that I have a color difference. So within the viewer, I can view real color. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if this is answering your question.
Yes, yes, it does. It actually shows some of the great different types of ways that Adobe and Esko software kind of integrate together,
Yeah,
which would be very
indeed.
beneficial for many different printers and print designers. I believe we have had a question come through. It says this one is from Juna, and she has asked if there is any chance of telling a new business or Archos CAD version 12, or if there is stuff like stuff regarding the board or others for sign and display specifically.
Um, that one, let me have a look. Um, what what is uh, what is new in version 12 is
Yes.
that there are more 3D functionalities. Yeah, and also if you allow me, I'm going to open up the base again from this. For example, let me open up the ARD file of the base. And now what is also new is that before you could load also graphics within ArchosCAD, yeah, but only bitmaps, okay? Now we are also able to load in PDF files, okay? So I could say I could go to the 3D display, but of course, one moment. Okay, so let me go to the artwork and let me select, for example, Illustrator files. So in this case, I can open up an Illustrator file and also position it onto the structure. Before I do this, I just remember that I have to flip this one because it's made from the other way. One moment, let me just flip it. Okay, and then I will go back to the artwork, select the Illustrator files and load in the file. Okay, and now of course I can position this file, register it, for example, on the outside of the bleed line, and it's the outside print like this. And now I can ask again to convert it to 3D, yeah? And I'm going to make a new 3D from it. Okay, and it will be, the base panel will be this one. Yeah, it's not completely folded, but anyway, so when I rotate it now, you will see that also I have my graphics on it. Okay, so these are some of the new features. If you want to know more in depth what is new, uh, you can find the presentation on the esco.com website where there are some slides which is telling you about every product, what is new inside. I don't know if this, maybe it's not a complete answer, but it's also because ArchosCAD is not my main application or the application that I work a lot with. But for sure, you can have new board information. There is much more integration done for 3D, adding graphics, and so on.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Hildy. Uh, just for my own personal benefit, we've this. I'm conscious that this is our last webinar with Esco, sadly, and I was wondering if there's any other kind of fantastic features that you've been working with on the iCut software that you would like to introduce to the attendees today. If there is anything that you think might be just a quick feature that you would like to present to everyone.
Yeah, maybe not everybody has been following the first part because there we were talking about iCode layout and iCode pre-flight. I think it's worthwhile. It's worth to have a look at onto the recordings of this because indeed, if you have iCode layout, iCode pre-flight, and even iCode automate, it can be a very added value onto your business.
That's fantastic. Thank you once again, Hildy. I will. Well, thank you very much to all of our attendees today. Uh, I would like to also thank you for joining us on all three of our seminars, and tell you that you will be shortly contacted for a code to receive a 3 month suite package from from Esko for the iCut software. I would also like to let everybody know that this video for the webinar, if you had missed any of the information, will be available on the FESPA.com website shortly as an on-demand video in our FESPA TV section of our site.
Yeah.
Uh, thank you everyone for attending, and if there are any more questions, I will be willing to take them now. Otherwise, I would like to wish you all a wonderful day. And
Okay. Uh,
oh,
Hello.
yes, hello, Hildy.
Yeah, Kurush, excuse me, but I also want to point out our website, esco.com. And if you want to know more about, for example, Studio or Artios Cat or iCut Suite, feel free to just go onto the website and you will see that you have an overview per product. You can read something about benefits, you can read something about features, and even we have some movies over there as well, which can show you something about the products.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for attending once again. And I would like to thank you as well, Hildy, once more for taking part in our webinar series in association with ESCO. And I hope everybody has a pleasant evening.